Hey everybody, Dr. LeGrand here, and today we're going to be talking about specifically the best way to eliminate being unmotivated naturally. Now, I want you guys to be putting on your detective hats because it isn't about talking about different hacks, like brain hacks per se, and maybe you've tried those different things, but it's more about looking at the body chemistry and seeing really what's going on internally, because if we don't change the body chemistry first, guess what? It's very difficult to make any of those brain hacks or strategies or coaching to actually work with someone who has lack of motivation. We got to first fix the problem with what's going on internally and identify more of the root causes of the problem. So what I do when anybody comes in with me to see with me to understand why they have lack of motivation, I want to understand really what's going on with the body chemistry imbalances. So I put together some case studies to kind of give you a general idea of what I typically will see when someone comes in with lack of motivation and how to actually help eliminate that. So one of the biggest things that I do like testing for is testing for micronutrient testing, because people with ADHD usually are more prone to be micronutrient deficient than the average person. And so this becomes a big problem if we don't understand really what's going on here. And so, and just like in this example, some of the biggest ones that I do see as a big problem are usually the B vitamins, such as vitamin B3, with, in this case, vitamin B5. And sometimes, even though we didn't see it in this case, but vitamin B12 and vitamin B6 are some of the big ones that we do see. So in this case, when we identify that there is some imbalances, why would this impact motivation? Well, I will tell you, just to kind of skip ahead here, to kind of get down to the neurotransmitter pathway, is B vitamins are so critical for the dopamine pathway right here, and are so critical for the serotonin pathway, because they actually are a cofactor for building and modulating different neurotransmitters. And this could be the reason of why you have lack of motivation, not necessarily because you have just only a dopamine problem, but because there is a B vitamin deficiency. So going back to the top here, real quick, is we want to be incorporating something like possibly a B complex that have activated forms of B vitamins. Really quick, can someone tell me if you can hear me and see me? I just didn't see anyone put anything in the chat. Let me know. I just want to make sure that the technology is working just fine. If you could let me know. All right. And then, of course, some other things that are very important to look at is other micronutrient deficiencies, such as vitamin D3, which is so important and something that I see time and time again with people with ADHD, that they might have vitamin D deficiency. And this can impact not only motivation, but it also can impact, usually generally, energy. And energy, having lack of energy is going to impact your drive and motivation for sure. So it's something to incorporate that along with taking like vitamin K2. It's good to take another fat soluble vitamin like vitamin K2 along with vitamin D, because it's easier to absorb that way. All right. And you can see even this person had low vitamin K1 and K2 levels. So that's why it's important to supplementing those. Now, some other things that could also creep up that I do see common over and over again with people who have lack of motivation, and usually with ADHD, is going to be things like zinc. Zinc is another really critical micronutrient that does help modulate a lot of different neurotransmitters, hence why it could be an issue with your lack of motivation. So zinc is a big one. Copper. Usually copper-zinc ratios are really important as well for modulating different neurotransmitters, so it's really important, and I do see that tends to be deficient, just like this patient that I had here, that we definitely had to do that. Calcium, I just mentioned that here just because I don't see this always really typically an issue with motivation, but I just want to mention here just because they were deficient in that, but it's also really important for health. Now, some other ones that I do see common that can impact lack of motivation is something like glutamine. Glutamine is another important amino acid that does help build a lot of different neurotransmitters that are very important for those different types of pathways to helping with things like motivation, drive, focus. And so adding something like L-glutamine is going to be something vital if you are deficient in it. Another big one, this was, I would say, is more impacting your energy. So I see this a common problem where when you have lack of motivation, usually the patients and clients I see, if they have motivation issues, they also have usually low energy. And when you have low energy, it's very hard to have motivation and drive if you have a low energy situation and you're dealing with chronic fatigue. And CoQ10 is definitely a significantly important one that helps with the It's in the mitochondria. It helps with building energy, generating ATP, which generates energy cells throughout our different cells. And so this is something that could be important to actually supplement if it is deficient. And I typically will see this one very deficient on older patients of mine with ADHD or lack of motivation, because they might be taking a statin drug, which actually decreases your CoQ10. So it's important to probably supplement that if you're taking a statin drug. Now, another one that I think that's very important to point out here is EPA and DHEA. So EPA is definitely usually more targeted for cardiovascular health. DHEA is more for brain health. So it depends. With this person, definitely their EPA levels were definitely lower than their DHEA. So I make sure I add something that has a more higher EPA ratio than DHEA ratio. But if it's the other way around, where maybe DHEA might be lower than EPA, then we want to have a higher ratio of DHEA to targeting the brain. And so that could be definitely one that can creep up, that can impact your motivation, because it's impacting your brain and building and modulating different brain cells for sure. I think looking at a good omega-3s that are going to, and see if those are deficient, are going to make a big, huge difference. Another one that's important, I think, so going back to the low energy situation, when there is low energy, it usually is going to impact your motivation drive every time. And people with ADHD always run, especially adults with ADHD, I see this time and time again, where when we test their cortisols throughout the day, we're going to see a big dip, possibly throughout the day, just like this person did. They're all extremely low. And so how do we combat something like that? Well, we have to understand how cortisol works. Cortisol is supposed to be highest in the morning, gets us up in the morning, right? And then it kind of tapers out throughout the day, but you still want enough cortisol to get you functioning, get you moving. And then you want lowest at night to get you ready for sleep. So in this case, I usually use something like adrenal support or adrenal desiccated to have them take it first thing in the morning and then afternoon to help increase those core levels that can help with improvement, not only in energy, but help with also motivation, drive, and focus, because we're improving those hormones that actually gets us up and going, keeps us keeps us focused throughout the day. And these are going to be important to implement that. Now, typically I'll do it for about 3 months just to revitalize the adrenals. You don't want to take it for much longer than that, and usually take it maybe as needed if you need to after the 3 months. But typically that's enough to revitalize, especially if you're improving on things like eliminating stressors in your life, improving nutrients and foods. I think supplements are great, you guys, but I will tell you that supplements are definitely just a stepping stone to get things going. And then once you identify the deficiencies, then you want to be implementing, usually with people with adrenal situation, cortisol, it usually has a lot to do with electrolytes, minerals that they need to incorporate in their food and their diet, eliminating stressors in their life, doing more stress reduction exercises such as breathing exercises to eliminate that, and eliminating other stressors in their life, whether it's in work or in the relationships, to remove that, to improve their adrenal functionality over time. But certainly these two things can definitely help get the ball rolling and going to get things to help improve in that capacity. Now, what about hormones? So hormones, I think, is another one that I think is overlooked, especially when we think about motivation or mood or depression, where you might have mood swings all the time. I think it's important to look at hormones. It's something that definitely impacts the ADHD brain significantly. And so in this case with this patient, like their progesterone levels are low, their DHEA levels are low. So you definitely want to improve that, because that can impact your mood. It can impact your motivation for sure. And you want to add something like maybe a natural progesterone cream to bring up those progesterone levels. And certainly adding something like DHEA. I know I'm covering it, but that's the supplement there to incorporating something like DHEA. Now, DHEA, why that's important, because it is a precursor to building testosterone and estradiol. So if you don't address, just like this person, the testosterone levels were kind of on the low end, but in order to prevent from it going any lower, adding something like DHEA can definitely improve those levels for sure. Now, last thing I would say here, actually not the last thing, there's actually a few other things I think are going to be important to incorporate too, is looking at neurotransmitters and amino acids that build those specific neurotransmitters. So you can see with this patient, they clearly were low on most everything. I don't see this very often, probably like most likely never. But I thought this was a good case to kind of show you guys that it is possible to see someone that might be deficient on all areas of all different neurotransmitters. And this person was severely dealing with not just lack of motivation, but couldn't focus. He was stressed. He was depressed. He had it all. You named it, and he was really, really struggling. And this really just kind of helps me to really identify all the things that could be possibly going wrong here. And if you look at the neurotransmitter pathway going here, looking at both, since he was deficient on all of it, he was deficient in PEA, tyrosine, dopamine, norepinephrine, epinephrine, serotonin. I believe even also tryptamine levels were low. His GABA levels were low. So all three neurotransmitter pathways were deficient. So what do we do there? Well, we definitely want to help improve the PEA by adding D-L-phenylalanine. We want to add something like DopaBoost, which has things like tyrosine, and it has ways to improve dopamine. L-theanine helps with dopamine, norepinephrine, epinephrine, and serotonin. So those are going to be really important to incorporate that. 5-HTP can also help with serotonin as well. L-tryptophan, same thing. It's going to help with the tryptamine, but also serotonin as well. Now, why are those important? Because serotonin has a lot to do with our mood of feeling happy, but also can impact our sleep too. So L-tryptophan, and this person was definitely struggling with sleep. When you have some major sleep issues, that can impact your motivation and drive significantly. And so adding something like L-tryptophan as well as 5-HTP can help with the sleep, especially if you're high stress and can't sleep because you're so agitated at night. L-histamine, why we incorporate that is because his histamine levels were low. Histamine is something that actually drives and builds and modulates also neurotransmitters. So when they're low, we definitely need to add something like L-histidine to improve that. Glycine powder. So glycine is one that was also low in this individual. In glycine, as well as even glutamine, which was also low. Both of those also help build and modulate a lot of different neurotransmitters. So this might be a lot, but that's why it's important when you are looking at this. Supplements are a great stepping stone just to get things going, to help with the motivation, help you have better energy so that you will have the motivation and drive finally, because you're trying to change the biochemistry to start incorporating, which I think is the most important, is implementing nutrients and foods and lifestyle changes that are going to make the long-lasting impact for your ADHD brain. So really, when I talk about like the 5 foundational things, supplements are great, but it isn't the be all answer. They get things started, and that's something I use as an initial stepping stone, but it's incorporating, good nutrients. So nutrients, is an important one. Water, keeping yourself hydrated, exercise. Okay. And then of course, actually, I should probably move that one over here. Exercise, eliminate stressors. Okay. So what I'm talking about stressors, these are things like work, relationships, any kind of stressors in your life that are causing you stress. How can you start eliminating those? Because that's going to be a big problem. And then sleep. Sleep is also really important. So all 5 of these things are very important. If you leave out any one of these things, in my opinion, your ADHD symptoms and your lack of motivation is going to be impacted. But if you dial down these 5 things, you will see that you actually have improvement and have that consistency throughout your life. Now, what helps with the testing is to know which type of nutrients to implement, right? And so part of the supplementation, yes, is part of nutrients, but we want to replace the supplements with actually whole food nutrients. Okay. And I think that's important to incorporate. And then things such as like exercise and sleep are going to help with a lot of different stressors of those different neurotransmitters that are way off. And then of course, water intake, keep your health hydrated. I think a lot of people with ADHD do not do this enough. And then of course, eliminating stressors. If we don't do that, it could be sabotaging your health consistently. You could be doing all the great things, but if we don't address the stressors in your life, it then will not allow for your body to heal. So that is so, so critical, and why this is so important. So, if you would like to find out this information for yourself, to understand really what is going on internally with the root causes of your motivation, your focus issues, or your ADHD, then the best thing, is it requires really further investigation, understanding the imbalance of biochemistry. That is what I specialize in helping people to understand really what are the root causes of your ADHD on a more holistic approach, so that we could finally tackle it and have a full roadmap to unlocking your true potential with your ADHD brain. So, through education, continuing education, I've spent well over $500,000 on all that stuff through medical school, but you don't need to become a doctor in order to figure this stuff out. I've already done that for you. And essentially, what I'm offering to you is you could book a 45-minute consultation with me. And then what's also included with that is a focus mind questionnaire. It's $197 value, as well as access to our lifestyle and nutrition tracking app. And that's something we use with all our patients and clients. That's a $300 value. And then also, if you purchase today, you get access to our ADHD health course. That's a $597 value. And you get that. So it's a total value of $1,844. And you get that all for just $297 if you do purchase today. So all you got to do is click on the link in the description below. Once you have clicked on that link, it will take you to this page. You'll purchase. Once you have purchased, you'll hit the book now, and then you will select a practitioner. And that would be me or whoever. And then you pick a date and time that you want to see me, and then you fill out your information. Once you've done that, you'll come to this landing page, and this is very, very important. So when you book the appointment, and if I finalize that, so make sure you pick a date and time. Even if you're not sure the date and time, still book it, because I do get booked out pretty quickly in advance. You can always message me if you weren't sure on the date and time. We can always reschedule further in the future if we need to. But it's really important that also that your spouse or your significant other is present. Why is that important? Because I really need to know the outside perspective of the challenges with your ADHD or your motivation. And so it's really important to have your significant other and spouse present if you do have one. But the other thing that's also important is to make sure you check your email for 2 emails. One is your confirmation email that's going to have your Zoom link. 2 is also the link to activate your Practice Better account. That is our online client portal. That's where you get access to the lifestyle and nutrition app, as well as how you can upload the questionnaire, as well as if you have any previous labs in the last year, go ahead and upload those, just standard labs that I can look over if we need to. And then, of course, make sure to block out time, 45 minutes to an hour, because sometimes we might go the full hour if we need to, depending on how many questions you do have, and make sure to show up early. So if you really are serious about finally tackling your ADHD and your lack of motivation and want my help, go ahead and book that consultation. Click the link in the description below, and I'll see you guys all on the next live stream. Thanks. Bye.